Welcome to Powerful Women Revealed. I'm your host, Nicole Perry, and today our show is all about relationships and really, the health and wellness of your relationships with your children. My guest today is a parenting coach, and she provides parents with solutions. Her goal is to help you define what is working in your life and what your strengths are as a parent, what your child's strengths are, so that you can have more harmony in your life. Beth Greenawalt, welcome to the show.
Hi, Nicole.
I'm so glad you're here today. We've already interviewed a couple of times on the radio, so we're just going to continue on this great conversation about parenting. I could talk about parenting forever, I feel like. There's so much to uncover, so much to discuss. So please share with the viewers a little bit of your background, and I'm fascinated with your background because mechanical engineering and biomedical engineer and neurofeedback technician, if I were ever going to be in the technical field, I would want to be in all of those fields. It's really, really fascinating. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you made that transition into your coaching business.
Sure. Well, I started as a mechanical engineer, worked in the biomedical engineering field until I had my daughter, chose to stay home, and while she was growing up, I experimented with some different things, one of which was neurofeedback, which is a way of helping people who have ADD and ADHD, help them balance themselves a little bit. And I worked as a neurofeedback technician for several years, and I really enjoyed it. I liked working one-on-one with people, and I found that they were looking, as they felt more balanced, to find balance in their lives. And the first place they looked was organization. So I stepped into being a professional organizer. And that was fun for a while, but for me, I wanted to make more of a difference. And I loved being a parent. I still love being a parent. And I wanted to help other parents. So I decided to move into parent coaching. So I went back, got a master's degree in parent coaching and child development. So my interest in how we think, why we are what we are, and who we are, I think is a real asset to my work as a coach.
And your background with the neurofeedback technician, that was not just with children, that was with people of all ages. And then you sort of have evolved because your organizational business stemmed from that, and then the parenting came out of that. And you really did see, we talked about this on the radio show, you really did see that there was a market for it. People needed parenting coaching.
I think because our society has changed, and back in the past we had other generations where women would be home together. They would all do things together. That's where you would share and you would explore and you would talk about, oh, I'm doing this, or I'm noticing these problems. We're a lot more isolated, but in an unusual way because we have social media at our ready. And so you can Google or you can type in a question that you're having and you can get 12 different responses as to how to solve a parenting issue. And it can be really challenging. You may not be able to find one that resonates with you.
And speaking of years ago when women were all together, really, a parent coach, you have so much expertise. It's not like calling up your girlfriend.
It's true.
It's very different. You are is it biased or unbiased? I always get those two screwed up.
Unbiased.
Unbiased. You are unbiased, and you're providing extremely helpful information without judgment.
It's true. That.
And your friends can be a little bit judgmental, maybe?
They might be able to. They might be, right. So I'm very non-judgmental. I'm supportive, and I bring in my knowledge base about all different things around parenting, from parenting styles to child development to children's learning styles, temperament, all these aspects that create who we are, who these people are in your house, so that you can have a better understanding of who you're living with.
And you really explore every age of the child.
We will focus on your child as they are right now when you come
Yes,
to me?
but I mean you.
Oh, but my experience, yes.
Your expertise, you can bring
I'm
to
not limited to any age of.
Yeah, even
right.
though your daughter's in college, you can still provide valuable knowledge about a 2-year-old and really give such great insight and perspective.
Yes.
Regardless of the age of your children.
Right.
Okay. Now let's talk about the most important thing, or the one thing we can control as parents. What is really the one thing we can control?
We can control ourselves.
And our environment.
We can control our environment, and we can control ourselves and our reactions and our expectations of our children. So
Okay.
yes.
So it really starts with us.
Starts with us.
With the environment that is around us that we're, okay. Now, what are your greatest strengths? And I love that you have a niche, as a parent coach, because there's a lot of coaches out there. What are your greatest strengths as a parent coach?
I focus on what is working in the family, in you, in your children. So my work is based on the strengths that are already existing in the situation. I'm open-minded, non-judgmental, supportive. I offer you a really safe space to explore your parenting, to talk about what's hard and to talk about what's working well, and to feel supported in that as you learn to be the best parent you can be.
And we all have the capabilities of being really great parents, which some of us don't give ourselves enough credit.
Well, we all have the desire to be the best parent we can be, to have a great loving connection with our children.
And we all feel like we are doing a better job than our parents did, and their parents before them, and their parents before them, but we don't have that confidence sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I help you grow and learn. And by feeling confident, it reflects back on the decisions that you make as a parent and how your child reacts to your decisions.
Okay. All right. Now, what is our parenting identity? What does that mean?
That means understanding and exploring who you are as a parent, what your strengths are, what you love about being a parent, so that you can work with what's working, so that you can build on your strengths and know yourself. You
And
have
focus.
to start by knowing yourself, focusing on what's working.
Yeah, and focusing and putting our attention to the positive rather than focusing on all the things that are not working.
Right.
That doesn't do anybody any good.
No.
Now, what are some of the things that you offer parents as part of your coaching process?
Well, we'll explore understanding your parenting identity, understanding your child. You have to know who these people are in your household so that you can best support them. When you have different children, more than one child, you know that they actually are different people. No two people are alike. So understanding who's in your home so that you can best support them. Understanding what the values are and the foundations for how you want to raise your children is the primary aspect of my work with parents, because that's what you base all of your parenting decisions on. What are the values that I want to raise my children to?
The values, okay. So, safety, manners, different,
Respect.
respect,
Right.
okay, respecting each other.
Compassion, kindness. It's different for every family. So we explore which values are the most important for you.
Because everybody's got
your
like their
household.
top 2 or 3 that they won't let go.
Yes.
They don't let slide
Right.
for whatever reason. Okay. And what you really offer is, encouragement and support and hope and
There's always hope.
yeah, there's always hope.
As long as there's a desire to be better, then there's the opportunity.
And listening, really, parents need people to listen, and we almost can't get past it unless we feel like we've been heard.
Yes.
I know I feel like that as a wife.
Yes. Well, that's a really important need of men, women, and children. Everybody wants to be really seen and heard for who they are. So by understanding who you are and who your children are, you can better do that. You can better learn to see these people in your home, and everyone blossoms under that.
Now, what if we're not quite Well, does anybody not know what their beliefs are or their values? I mean, do most of your clients kind of know what they are, or do you have to sort of ask a few questions to sort of uncover or realize this is what they think their beliefs are, but really their values and their beliefs are over here?
I think that it is something that most people don't clarify going into this. It's not something anybody really thinks about.
I know.
And so putting actual words to these values carries a lot of weight.
Yes.
It gives them presence in your life.
Clarity.
It gives them clarity.
Yeah.
So a lot of the confidence problems that parents have are around not knowing exactly why I'm choosing this discipline model. Why am I saying no to this?
Yeah.
And if you're clear, this is the value that I'm supporting by setting a boundary here, then you're able to stick to it, you're convinced of it, and you own it. But when you don't know what value you're supporting, that's when the waffling happens. And as soon as parents waffle and change their mind, children just jump right in there, and they.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
You just opened up a whole thing of the changing the mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, make a plan, and it's okay to change it
Yes.
here and there and fine tune it. But when, as a parent, you can't constantly change, otherwise there's no foundation.
Right.
Yes. Right. Okay. So once you decide what your morals and your values are,
Yep.
then you want to make your parenting decisions based upon that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, a really clear, simple example that I use all the time is safety as a value. All of us as parents want our children to be safe. So a basic parenting decision you would make is if your small child was running into the street, you would stop them. You would grab them, you would stop them from running into the street. No matter how they screamed or cried or were upset, it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't question yourself as a parent. You would say, I'm sorry, my job is to keep you from getting hit by that car.
Yeah.
Therefore, what I did was right.
Okay.
So your value is safety. Now that safety value carries through your child's life. All the way through when they're they're teenagers and they're getting in a car with someone else, and you want to know that they arrived at their destination. You want them to call you or text you when they get there. It's not about trusting whether or not they're going where they said. It's about safety and knowing that you arrived safely. That's all I want to know.
Yes.
I want to know you're at that house and you're safe.
And it's important to say that to your children and really share with them why you're asking them to do something specific rather than just saying, because I told you so.
Oh, well, when we create these values, when I work with parents, we actually create a statement for the family. And my recommendation is that statement becomes public. It's on the refrigerator. It's a discussion you have with everyone in your family. And you explain that these are words, these are the values we're going to parent to. And then you work really hard on using those words. If it's safety, if it's compassion, if it's kindness, whatever it is, in the conversation that you're having with the child, so that they start to resonate and they know where this is coming from.
So that they're familiar. It's not, they're not being blindsided by some, arbitrary decision or thought. Now let's talk about family frames. I really like that phrase.
Like that name?
Yes.
Family frames is the idea of how we impart our values in a public setting. So for example, if respect is something that's important to your family, how your children treat the waiter and waitress at a restaurant is a family frame.
Yeah.
You are setting up the scenario of this is how I expect people in my family to interact. This is how we show respect.
Now, what if the family frame is different for the mom and the dad?
Well, that's a conversation between the parents. I've coached parents together.
Okay.
And it's been really interesting because they've come to understand how to support one another in their differences.
Yeah.
And it's made them a stronger parenting unit. Because we should be different and we should celebrate our differences. And it's not about getting you to be more like your husband or vice versa. It's about understanding why he feels this way and supporting him in it, or finding that middle space where you both feel comfortable and say, okay, this is the path we want our children to take.
And the compromise is really, it's a little bit about give and take, and it's a little bit, knowledge is power. So the more you understand what your spouse's frame or family frame is, you're okay with sort of going along with their family frame.
Right.
I love that phrase. Now, what about old beliefs? How do we as parents let go? Because there are certain old beliefs that, for instance, keeping your room clean, as a simple example. Obviously, keeping your room clean is one of my morals and values that I take pride in, even though my house is a mess the majority of the time. But, how do I let that, go or not let that go if it's not working?
Well,
and I know this is a really silly example, but I was trying to give something basic because there's sometimes that is one of the family frames on the inside of the house, and it's something that I feel strongly about, but yet they're not understanding, the 7-year-old or what have you, or the 9-year-old is not understanding that that's a value.
And we could play with the value of respect around this idea, because you're respecting your environment, you're respecting your belongings.
So it's the respect.
It's the respect. If you just got a brand new shirt, or you bought your daughter a new shirt, and the next day you see it and it's on the floor and she's walked on it, she's showing no respect for not only the money that you spent, but also the item itself. And so it's about the balance of respect around property, around environment, around where you live, your own body, when you're talking about keeping your room clean so you're not sleeping in a dust bowl. So that's what I mean when we get these 4 or 5 values. So many parenting decisions come down to that basic idea.
And you really need to go to those values in every challenging area that you're having with your children to see which value it comes from. The light bulbs are going off now. Okay, now how do we remain patient and compassionate? Is it a choice? Like really just comes down to choosing not to fly off the handle and remaining patient?
There's a few different ways to answer that question. Part of it is being authentic to yourself. There are personalities that are exciting and volatile, and that is just the way people express themselves. And if that is authentically you, then that is you.
Yes.
But if you're doing it in a frustrated manner because you're not feeling like you're being heard or seen by your children, that's where we'll step in. And that's where we'll explore the authenticity of how you're reacting and how you feel about that reaction. There are times when your baby is running out in the street that you are going to yell and make a lot of noise, and you are not going to apologize for that in a moment. But you could be in a restaurant and the child spills your wine, and all of a sudden you fly off the handle and immediately feel remorse about that.
I remember one time at the beach flying off the handle at somebody else who was not being respectful towards my toddler. So my son, who's now 14, I think he was 3 at the time, and I believe I might have been pregnant, I flew off the handle. But I didn't fly off the handle at my son. It was about the person, the way they were treating my child.
Right.
And I was not going to apologize.
No, because
and
you
the
were
woman that was
defending.
with me, she was appalled at my reaction. And I was like, no way am I apologizing for that.
Because you were firm in your belief that something had disrespected your son, and you were not going to stand for it.
Yeah.
So there's no apologies there.
Yeah.
It was very honest and real for you.
So it comes back to those main values, the core.
Always.
The core. And we're going to talk
Always.
about the vital 5 in just a minute. All right. Now, really, it's important to understand ourselves. And our strengths as a parent, but really, isn't it important, or are you trying to say that we need to be more understanding of ourselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of compassion there. There's a lot of forgiveness. I believe when you understand, it's very freeing. Because then there's clarity.
Well, and it's the hardest job.
It is by far, hands down, the hardest
job
Yeah.
is to raise children, and then you have a full-time job on top of that, and you're taking care of your in-laws and the dogs and gerbils and all the other things, school and snow and all the other,
And
all
our
the other.
society gives us no support in this. You walk into that hospital, you've had practice about how to have the baby, you've been to the little Ma's classes and stuff, but they hand you that child and you walk out of the hospital and you're supposed to innately have this ability to understand how to raise this little person. And this is where I think we're really failing everyone by not offering support regularly for people. And this is where I feel like that's a really big gap.
Well, okay, so I have two questions. I know that you read a ton of books on parenting. And when you become a parent, there is no guide. There is no, here's how to be a parent. I mean, other than the what's to expect when you're expecting and what to expect the toddler years, but there really is no, because every human being is different. So I want to know what books that you might recommend right now, that you might be reading right now. Well, let's start with that.
Okay, well, I
forgot my other question.
My baseline developmental books are all the Brazelton Touch Points books.
Okay.
Dr. Barry Brazelton has written a series of books called Touch Points based on how old your children are. Those are phenomenal for understanding development. I have lists of books that I love. There's one, though, that right now I'm reading, and I think it speaks to the basis of what parenting is a real description of parenting, and it's called All Joy and No Fun.
Oh, you told me that one the last time.
And it's about the fact that we love our children, we feel great joy being parents, but there's a lot of our day that's not a lot of fun. Diapers and sick children and that same game
Sibling
of Candyland
rivalry.
57 times. Sibling rivalry. Yeah, so it really speaks to the reality of what parenting is. We can come into it with rose-colored glasses when you think, oh, this adorable little child, look at it, it's so cute, and it's going to sleep, and it cries all night, or whatever.
Or you get the colicky baby, and my daughter was colicky, and I had two children that weren't, and then all of a sudden, I remembered my other question. At what point do parents usually come for your help? Are they already feeling like there's just too far of a gap, or are they?
Typically, yes, that's what it is. There's a gap somewhere. They're yelling more than they want to. They're not connecting. All of a sudden, there's a transition in their life, and they're noticing behaviors that they don't know how to respond to. So that's typically when someone will call me.
Now, I love, you sent me a couple of little information or tidbits to talk about today, and I love some of the things that you help your clients with, and surprising them with presents. And we're not talking about gifts. So I love
your presents.
Your presents. Now, have you done this yourself?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have
and it was a good outcome?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, what I like to do is I like to leave my parents with there's always little ideas and techniques to use, and by having a fun little acronym, it helps you remember them in the moment.
Oh, okay.
So surprise them with presents is the idea that you need to meet your children where they are. And be in their space sometimes. If typically your child comes home and he sits and he plays some video games and you go make dinner, every once in a while, go grab the controller and sit with them and play.
Oh, now I thought you meant show up to the mall. Show up to wherever they're at.
Surprise them like that?
Yes.
Well, that may or may not go well, depending on how old your children are.
Exactly.
No, it's about being present, about really being with them in something that matters to them. My story, my personal story, when you asked, my daughter always was chatty and happy and shared things with me, but she became a high school student, and all of a sudden that kind of ended.
Changed.
She had more time for her friends, but not as much time for me. And I found that if I waited up, and I'm an early bird, so I like to go to bed early and to get up early, but if I waited up till she got home at midnight, she would come in and she'd chat with me for like a half an hour. She'd tell me about what her friends did and what the little stories were.
Oh,
because
that's wonderful.
She was relaxed then.
Oh, okay.
And she, it was just fun. And so my presence was being there at the time when she was willing to be open.
So I'd be having my nap from 8 p.m. to 11:30,
Yeah.
and then I wake up.
On the couch, right? And you wake up before they get home, and you'll be ready. So,
Now-
and that changes.
And what is a do-over?
The do-over is one of
What
my
is
favorite
that?
parenting techniques. As we're trying to learn to be different and better people, we have aspirations for how we want to behave.
Okay.
So you have an idea. Okay, the next time my child does X, I'm going to react like this.
Oh, okay.
All right. So then your child goes and leaves the socks on the floor. You walk in the kitchen, and boom, you explode. Right.
Oh.
And then as soon as the words come out of your mouth, you stop yourself and you say, oh, I didn't mean to act like that. I meant to
Yes.
respond this way. So a do-over is like rewinding the videotape. This works for grown-ups and it works for children.
So right then and there.
Right then and there, you say, okay, wait, stop, do-over. You physically, it makes it, depending on how old your children are, you can make it fun. You can literally like back out of the room, walk back in.
That's adorable.
And respond in a different way.
I love it.
My favorite story, a good story I have about that from a client was this mom had come home early from work, and she had the opportunity to cook dinner, her daughter's favorite dinner. So she's in the kitchen and she's so proud of herself. She's making this lovely meal, and in from outside comes the 8-year-old. She walks in, door slams open, and she's like, "What's this smell?"
Oh no.
Now, right away, mom, you know, she had come home from work, she'd gone to the store, she'd gotten the special food, da, da, da.
Yes.
So your reaction would not be the most pleasant one.
Yes.
But we had been working together, and so she said, wait a minute, I'm not sure that's how you meant to enter the house. How about you do that over? So the little girl walked out,
Okay.
walked back in, and went, Mom, something smells really good.
Oh. So the do-over can go for either person.
It's for your children and it's for yourself. As you all are growing and learning, we make mistakes, we trip up, but growth happens when we recognize the change we want to make in the moment. Because the next time, you're going to catch it a little bit earlier and a little bit earlier, and then all of a sudden,
Yes.
you react in the way you want to.
I love it. So really being in the present moment.
Being in the present moment, but that is another parenting technique that I have.
Okay.
Is parent the present moment. In the moment when something happens.
Parent the present moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
As we segue,
Okay, yes.
parent the present moment means address the issue that's going on right now in front of you. Not the way they reacted before, not the way you anticipate it might happen in the future, only this right now.
Okay.
Like the little girl who came storming into the house with this negative attitude. Mom has no idea what just happened out there. She might have just fallen off her bike. She might have just gotten in a fight with her best friend. Had a dog chased her down the street. You don't know. But you don't, it's better not to jump in and say, you always are rude when you walk in the house. Deal with this present moment, this one thing that's happening right now. The fact that she walked in and she made a rude comment, deal with that.
And I don't like using the word always and never whenever you're discussing or having a debate or a conversation or an argument. Because nobody ever does anything always or never.
Right.
But isn't, as parents, we're not born yesterday.
Yep.
And we understand things that happen in the world. We know that history is the greatest predictor of future behavior. So the history of somebody's behavior is the greatest predictor. How do we not look? We just have to live in the present. We just have to make the choice.
We live in the present, but my work is looking at history with a different lens.
Oh.
So we're shining a light on the behavior, but understanding it in a different way. So your child might be defiant, but it could be because that's his temperament, and we're going to understand how to support him in his temperament so that his defiance is something that you can learn to work with, he can learn to use as a strength.
Okay.
Because you want someone who's independent and has great thoughts and feels really strongly about their beliefs. That's an asset when you think about that, an adult, right? Well, you can also couch that as defiance. So it's understanding how to use that and see it as the asset that it is.
Okay.
So you've got history there, but we're going to view it at a different lens.
How do you, this is just totally coming off of the tip of my head here, how do you take, because I'm talking about the history being the greatest predictor, lying. lying is something that almost every child goes through. There's an adolescent age where they decide, oh, I know how to fabricate this because she won't be able to know that I didn't clean my room. So how do you not judge or not fall back on what they've done in the past? Because I remember really as a 16-year-old struggling to have that switch changed with my parents as I started to become older and more mature. And I wanted their respect. I wanted to be treated with respect. I'm not lying to you anymore. I'm making a change. So how do you, make that switch?
Lying has a lot of different components. There's developmental aspects to it and things, but based on your question, there's the component of seeing your child, who they are and where they are now. Lying, I think, sometimes comes from the fact that we're still seeing our children as younger than they are chronologically now. And so they sort of feel like sometimes they fabricate where they are because you're not ready to handle it. It could be that. There are lots of different ways to look at lying. There's a brain development around the fact that our children, until they're 25, don't develop the frontal lobe of their brains, and that is the consequence component. So it could very well be that they literally can't make a connection between action and consequence because that connection has not been made in their brain. So it may appear to be lying to us because of our maturity, when for them it just was as far as their brains let them go.
See, I feel like it almost is the beginning of how they become smarter, because they can use their imagination.
There's
right?
that. There's that.
All right, well, let's talk about disturbing the system.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Disturbing the system is a fun way to interject some new parenting techniques into your family. So if you're feeling like you're on that little hamster wheel of the same behavior and your same reaction and the same behavior and your same reaction, and you don't know how to get off of it, this is where you disturb the system. With little kids, it can be really helpful, and I had a dad who was so good at it. You would get frustrated, and the child would just be, putting his foot down and being very forceful around his opinion, and Dad would break out in song. And it would cause the little kid to just crack up, diffuse the tension, and all of a sudden you can get to the point that you're trying to get to.
I am doing this. I didn't even know I was doing this. Well, not that I'm breaking out in song, but I'm breaking out in jokes.
See?
And I didn't know I was doing that.
Yeah.
I did it yesterday. Oh my God, that's hilarious. So disturbing the system and really just shaking it up.
Shaking it up.
Okay, so let's talk about the Vital Five. What is the Vital Five? Is this one of your sort of core belief systems that you sort of place with your parents?
This is one of the tenets I learned in my parent coaching training through the Parent Coaching Institute. The Vital Five are the 5 most important developmental components of a child. These are the things, as a parent, since you can control the environment in which they grow, you can support these 5 aspects of development. Quickly, you could read through them if you'd like.
Well, it's a loving parent-child bond,
yes,
a rich inner life, the capacity for image making. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
The ability to imagine, the ability for creative expression, and participating as a contributor. Let's start with the last one, participating as a contributor.
Everyone needs to feel that they're valuable.
Okay.
So participating as a contributor can very simply mean having responsibility in the home. They have a chore that they're responsible for.
Okay.
And they're contributing to this bigger picture, this bigger system of our family and how it works.
Okay.
And it's my
and
job.
And it's vital.
It's vital. And they're valuable in it. The dog will go thirsty if you don't meet your chores to make sure the dog always has water.
Yes.
That's a valuable contribution. It makes you feel important.
Okay, and now the ability for creative expression.
That's finding places that you love. This is if you're a painter, or you like to sing, or you like to play a musical instrument, or you like to dance. It's helping your child explore what it is. Maybe they like to walk in nature and look at flowers. What is it that just fills their soul, that gives them, you know,
and we just need
renewing.
We just need to give them the foundation for that, so that they can
give them all these different options. Let them explore and experiment and find the ones that connect to them.
Okay. And then what is the capacity for image making? What is that? The ability to imagine.
The ability to imagine.
Is that the parent needs to imagine?
No, this is the child. This is where our connection to media is starting to influence the way our children are developing, and it's a really negative influence.
Okay.
A story that I heard from a kindergarten teacher who, on one of the very first days, got the book out and said, okay, it's story time. And she gets the book out, and all the little kids sit in a circle, and one little boy is just standing up, and he's walking around, and she says, "Why? Sit down, we're going to read the story." And he's like, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do." And she said, "You're going to sit, and you're going to listen to the story, and you're going to make pictures in your mind about what I'm reading." He had no idea what that meant.
Is it because
you're watching videos all the time, the pictures are made for you. So you're not creating in your head images. It's a vital developmental component that is getting lost in our media-driven age. So
that we need by the time the child is 5 years old.
It's incredibly important to nurture the ability to imagine.
Okay.
You can even do that around media by being an active participant. Better to do it with reading and books and pretending and putting on a cape and imagining you're, you know, Superman or something. But I have lots of techniques that you can use actually while you're involved, turning off, you know, stopping a show partway through and imagining, okay, what do you think is going to happen next? Playing with that.
Oh, that's very cool.
And then when it's over, having a conversation about, okay, you thought this was going to happen, but really this happened. So playing with that. There's just so many ways to build on it, but it's a vital developmental step. And unless we unplug our kids for a little while every day, it's
vital for the developmental of the child's brain.
Yeah.
Okay. And some kids, you know, are very natural at being creative and, you know, taking a penny off the floor and making it into a wheel and doing things like that, but not all kids do. And when you interject the computers and the video games,
that's it.
You take that small amount that they did have, you take it away.
Right.
Okay. Now, loving parent-child bond is one of the vital five, and a rich inner life. Now, obviously, we all want a rich inner life. And we all want that parent-child bond. Right. How is that the vital five, and how do you know if that's being introduced, if you're missing, if you're lacking that? If your child's basically not looking at you at all?
I mean, there are some basics, right? But my work really helps build that loving child bond, because you're connecting with your child. You're finding places to reach out on their level where they are developmentally, where their interests are. Maybe they're the musician and you've never picked up an instrument in your life. But connecting by listening to them or going shopping with them to buy music for their instrument, different ways. You're just building that relationship. It is vital. I mean, we know the stories already of what happens to children in like the Russian orphanages who are not touched and loved. They developmentally do not thrive. That's an actual developmental term. Failure to thrive are these poor babies that are born without a bond. It's vital to our humanness to have a connection.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you just said that they're not touched. You know, I have 3 boys, and I'm not very lovey-dovey with them because they're teenagers. So I need to introduce, you know, squeeze the shoulder when I walk by every now and then, or things like that. I mean, I feel a little weird.
The touching is really vital at the very beginning.
Oh, okay.
Infants
so I'm good.
And young children. As you get to the teenage years, you're adding a whole different dynamic.
Yeah.
You're letting them separate. You're creating the relationships you want. If it's natural and organic to give them a hug every once in a while,
yes.
then do that.
Okay.
But don't force it.
Yeah.
You've done it. You've done it. By the time they've reached 14, 15, you have this loving connection. It comes out in different ways now.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily physical touch.
I always feel guilty about that.
What, that you don't touch them more?
Yeah.
Well, if it's something that you need.
Well, and we were going to talk about guilt and shame. Let's talk about the difference between shame and guilt.
That's a really, really important concept.
Yeah.
Guilt is, I am bad. Shame is, I did something bad.
Oh.
So we do things that we're not proud of. We all do, right?
Okay.
But it's how you react to them or how you make your child feel about what just happened.
Okay.
If you feel shame about something, ooh, I did something bad, you have the motive to change it. Next time I'm going to change my behavior. Oh, I'm not going to do that again. I'm ashamed of how I spoke. I'm ashamed of how I behave. It's a motivator. It's actually a positive emotion. Guilt is when you are made to feel that because of your behavior, you are bad.
Or lack of behavior.
That is a killer.
So that's not good.
You
can't focus on that.
You can't.
Okay.
So you know, your parenting needs to be around avoiding guilt.
Okay.
And helping people
not feeling guilty.
And not feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Right? You are not bad.
Got that Catholic in me, though.
Balance.
It's not ever going to go away forever.
Right.
But that's where I need to have just more compassion for myself as a parent because it is the hardest job.
Right.
Okay, well, we're running out of time, but we do have about 4 or 5 more minutes. You know, how can we feel more confident when we're making our parenting decisions? Does it come back again to our morals and values and those base fundamentals of what we believe in?
My coaching does, yeah. It comes down to those values, and it comes down to knowing who you are, knowing your strengths and building on them, and learning to trust yourself.
Okay. Now, you might not want to answer this question because I don't think you don't focus on weakness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because my question is, what is the biggest weakness you think we have as parents, and and that is not difficult to change? So you don't believe in weaknesses?
My coaching is based on strength. It's a strength-based model.
It's strength-based.
It's finding what's working. It's building on that. Even when we as adults are trying to improve ourselves, if we focus on improving our strengths instead of trying to fix our weaknesses, we'll make more progress.
Okay. So we can't even just cross that off. Can't even just focus on our weakness. No. Well, because you don't want to, because the weakness would mean the negative, and you can't focus on that. You have to focus on all the things that you're doing great. Okay. All right. And then, how can, after working with you, what are your clients really walking away with?
They walk away with feeling supported, feeling confident, feeling happier in their family, knowing how to love the family that's in their home.
Love the family you have.
Love the family you have.
I love that you say that because we get so wrapped up in everything else that we lose sight of this is our family.
Right.
This is it, and they're not broken.
Right.
Right.
They're not broken.
They're not broken, and we don't need to fix them.
No.
Or ourselves, really, for that matter.
Nope.
Okay. And then really, you help them own, or help the parents own the strengths and feeling comfortable with him or herself.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Your own strengths, feeling comfortable with who you are, being able to let go of those places where you don't excel. And this is where couples working together with me is helpful, because his strength and your strengths most of the time are different. And so that you can support each other. I had a couple that I worked with, and he, by the end of the day, when he got home from work, the frustration, he just would get really short-tempered and frustrated after dinner time with that whole going to bed thing and the baths and the kids are being silly and they're not focused, and he just was done with his day. Mom, on the other hand, in this couple,
I'm the frustrated one.
Totally had the patience for it. She could play with them then, and she could make it a game, and da-da-da. So as parents, they realized, okay, after dinner, Dad needs to go to his office and just read to hang.
Yeah.
And Mom will handle bedtime because it was okay with her.
Yeah.
And they agreed.
It's the opposite for me in my household.
Yeah. But they saw where they were supporting one another in each other's weaknesses, and that made them a better couple.
Yeah. And really, it goes back to the family framing that we talked about earlier. The husband's frames might be a little bit different than the mom's frames.
Right. But the value of getting your child to bed at a regular time and making sure they've had a healthy meal or whatever, those are the same. But how you get to them are different, and it's not wrong. It's just different.
It's just different because the safety values are both there. You just get to them in a different way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we are out of time. Do you have any last minute thing that you want to share that we forgot to mention maybe?
I think we've touched on a lot, but just know that you can be the parent that you hope to be. You can have a deep, loving connection with your child. You can feel confident, and you can grow the adult that you imagine your child can be. And I can help you do that.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Nicole.
It was wonderful. And like I said, I could talk about parenting all day long, every day. I want to thank you for tuning in to Powerful Women Revealed. Until next time, we'll see you next time. I want to thank you so much for watching the Powerful Women Revealed show. The Power Show is such a compelling way for entrepreneurial women to capture and share who they are, why they are so passionate about what they do, and how their business is unique and stands above the rest. I really do believe it is so important as entrepreneurs to communicate who we are and why our products or services are exceptional, and communicate that in a powerful way. My guest today is such a powerful woman and a powerful parenting coach. Beth so effortlessly articulates how important it is to put our parenting challenges or mindset into perspective. I absolutely love how focused and clear Beth remains regardless of the circumstances of any parenting issue that she is presented with. Just like her website states, Beth is all about solutions, and she has the ability to see that there are not problems in our relationships with our children, and our children do not need to be fixed, but there are only opportunities to bridge that gap between us and to really cherish and love the families that we do have. I love her statement about deepening the loving connection with our children. I am such a humorist at heart, and that statement really makes me think about what my intentions are when it comes to raising my kids. Beth is clearly devoted to helping parents in a world full of technology, change, and even adversity. As an entrepreneur myself, I have the opportunity to meet a lot of coaches, and Beth's niche as a parent coach really streamlines her business in the coaching industry. I believe coaches are essential, and to have Beth's expertise as a parenting coach at our fingertips is truly a blessing. I believe coaches are the professional soundboard that we need in today's society. Beth is such an inspiration to me. Almost every time I see her, I go into my confession mode about how I'm not winning Mother of the Year today, and she just smiles and laughs. And with that one smile, I know that she understands how hard it is to be a parent, never mind having any other responsibilities, beyond that. And she places no judgments on me or her clients at all. She simply understands and listens. It is my personal mission to acknowledge such amazing women entrepreneurs such as Beth Greenawalt, and I am extremely blessed to know Beth. I am proud to promote her, promote who she is and what she stands for, and how she is helping people in and beyond her community. I hope you will tune in next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Until then, I'm your host, Nicole Perry, and I want to thank you for watching Powerful Women Revealed.